Good evening. Welcome to this session on LL.M and law and development at Azim Premji University. My name is Rajgopal and we have Dr. Nigam here with me. Very happy to have you all joining this session. It's quite warm here at Bangalore. But before we start answering the questions, let me first introduce Nigam to you all. Nigam is a lawyer by training and has worked as a practicing lawyer before moving into academics. Nigam has taught the courses at various institutions both here in India and abroad. Prior to joining Azim Premji University, Nigam was teaching the LL.M program at VP University, London, for several years in fact. Nigam, could you give a brief introduction about the LL.M program here at Azim Premji University? And people who are joining us, if you have any questions to ask, I will quickly explain how this works. On your right hand side, you will see Ask a New Question link. So you have to type in your question there. It says say something. So just type in your question and click submit. If you experience any technical difficulties, do let us know. Over to you, Nigam, to give a quick introduction about the program.
Thank you, Rajgopal, and welcome to everyone here. The LL.M in law and development was started last year, and it's a program really aimed at trying to bridge issues in law and justice and development that we have seen for several years in the past. We are a bunch of law academics and people from the policy and governance area who have come together to create a program that emphasizes the relationship both in a theoretical as well as a practical way between law and justice. So in pursuance of that, we have a series of courses that we are pretty excited about, that we teach students, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in the rest of the session.
Probably, I had some questions which we had received over the email, so I'll start asking those questions first. We talk about all programs are, we say, designed with the principle of law as an agency for positive social change. So, how do you think our program, and we say looking at law and development, the intersection of those two different domains of law and development, how do you think that's different?
Yeah, I think that traditionally, almost every law program in India has had justice and law as one of their subjects. And, our problem has been that I don't think that aim has been pursued very seriously and in a sustained manner until recently. So that's really the goal of our program. The goal of our program is to investigate the relationship between law, justice and development at various levels. At the theoretical level, for example, the idea of the relationship between law and justice, and abstract relationships between law and governance and politics. At the practical level, we ask the students to research almost a year-long research project into an area where they have to go into the field and do practical work as part of what we call field work for the students, which is commonly known as clinical work in many other places in India. And at also the level of social intervention, which is done both through the field projects as well as through a year-long dissertation, where our students have to submit almost a law review article level paper at the end of their LL.M. So we have various stages at which we are trying to deepen and strengthen the relationship between law, justice and development. It's always been addressed by law faculties, as you rightly put it, but hasn't been done in a serious and sustained manner before. And our course, the structure and the syllabus is designed to do it.
Fantastic. Thank you. So when you say the course and the structure, they will. I was in fact going through the program document. So they have core courses that they'll be doing as part of the program.
That's right.
And what are the options that we give them when it comes to the electives? Is it again within law, or do they have the option of looking at interdisciplinary areas also?
Well, because the LLM, much like any other academic postgraduate study in India, is regulated by the UCG, and so we have certain core courses that fulfill the UGC requirements.
Right.
And in any case, they are requirements that we require our students to fulfill because they're important for the LLM. So every LLM student will have to do the core courses, which are mandatory in research methods and in law and justice and in comparative public law. But in addition to that, to underscore the thrust of our program, we have a core course, a mandatory course in law and development.
Okay.
Which is a course that really brings out kind of the special nature of a program. We have development scholars both within our SPG group as well as outside, engaging with the students on issues relating to sustainable development and how that relates to law. This is a field that's been quite popular outside of India, but I think it's yet to kind of catch fire in India. But we are trying to do that in a big way. But those are just the mandatory courses. But in addition to that, we have several really interesting optional courses that speak to the kind of number of disciplines that a number of areas of study that Azim Premji University is good at. So we have people who at the university who are sociologists, who are historians, who are development experts, who are economists, and we give our students an opportunity to take courses where these people teach those subjects. And not only that, there are people on the law faculty, so I'm giving myself as an example, who teach courses that are at the intersection of law and philosophy, law and private law. So for example, there's a course called Philosophical Foundations of Political Institutions that I teach that talks about how philosophical issues speak to legal institutions like the judiciary and the legislature. So we have a course called Foundations of Private Law. I don't think this course is there in any other law school in the country, where we go into the jurisprudential philosophical foundations of contract, tort, trust, and property. So there are various interesting avenues leading into various other areas of study that intersect with the law that are available to our students, our LLM students, as optional courses. And I think those would be very useful.
And does that mean, in fact, they'll be in a classroom with other students who are dealing with development and other programs at the university?
Well, certainly in that optional courses, they will have students who are doing MA in development or MA in education in their classrooms. And I think that really will enrich their experience. I think the law students are a very homogeneous group. They're used to dealing with other lawyers. So I think that for the first time, and probably to their benefit, they'll be sitting with people who are experts in other disciplines.
Excellent, excellent. So looks like I'm seeing some of them joining us now. Hello, hi Sarthak. Good evening to you. In case you joined now, we were just giving a brief, quick introduction into the program itself. That's LL.M in Law and Development. So Nigam just gave a brief outline of how the core courses and the optional courses that you have here. I just remember, Nigam, when you said the philosophical foundation of political institutions course that you do. Is there a different kind of pedagogy that you use in the classroom? Because philosophy is always it's considered to be very theoretic, very dry, not able to relate to, especially if people are just into their finish their graduation. So is there a different pedagogy that you use in a classroom? I've heard it from many students. I don't know if this is an opportunity to talk about it here.
No, I think law students especially must be used to the pedagogy that we use for philosophy. Law students typically deal with analytical questions, with the logical analysis and deductions, and pretty much philosophy is of the same order. So there's nothing really different, except that the texts are much more abstract and very and general compared to the kind of particular hard texts that they're used to in law. But pretty soon I found in my experience that the law students pick it up quite soon and they quite enjoy it. Although they do complain in the beginning, they enjoy it towards the end.
Great, great. Thank you. Yeah, I think there's some questions coming in. Whether there are any plans to introduce PhD for those who complete their LLM in law and development?
Yeah, we don't have any plans at present, although we are looking into developing PhD programs. There aren't any immediate plans for PhD for those students.
And briefly, you were talking about the dissertation, and you said it's a year long.
That's right.
I was just curious to know when they have classes to attend, and is that mostly they do between the semester? How's the entire?
Yeah, well, when we planned the dissertation module at APU, we were clear about one thing. We were clear that the dissertation module will take an effort that needs to be sustained and progressive throughout the year. So we start the students off right at the beginning of the program. Even in their research methods course, which is one of their core courses, they learn about the baby steps of the dissertation, so to speak, about how to draft a statement of purpose, how to draft the bibliography which speaks to that purpose. They do those kind of things right at the beginning of the semester, and then throughout the year they have signposts. At every stage they'll have to inform the dissertation supervisors and the faculty in charge of the dissertation about their progress in the dissertation. Because we recognize that say a 10,000 or 12,000 word dissertation is an effort that can only happen throughout the year. It can't happen towards the end.
That's right. Thank you. I'm seeing some questions coming in. Let me just. I think that's Sarthak. I think we'll take. Thank you for asking those interesting questions. People who joined late, you should see a window called Say Something. So you can type in your questions. So that's what Sarthak is asking. Will it help me in practicing law in future? That's the question.
A good LLM program should help any student who goes through in practicing law in the future. So I'll just give you an example, both on the theoretical and the practical side. A good LLM, a good lawyer, whatever legal practice is doing, will need the basics. Right? So he or she has to know about the foundations of contract, foundations of court, the relation, how we interpret law in terms of principles, and those things are taught in any good LLM program. So a law and development program will certainly help in making a good lawyer. But I think your question might be even more specific than that, which is how does a law and development LLM help in practicing law? And on that point, I think it's important to note that one of our kind of key areas is to prepare students for practice in public policy, human rights, litigation, law and development, indeed, law and environment. And these are areas where not only good procedural knowledge of the sort I was talking about is important, but also good substantive knowledge is important. And we give that as well in our program. So we have, as I said before, we have a law and development course that takes you through the major issues in law and development. And you take courses in public policy and in governance as part of the LLM, and those courses will help you as a lawyer who's interested in public policy issues or human rights issues or indeed law and development issues.
Fantastic. I think you're answering also Aditya's question, whether there is an interface with public policy in this LLM program.
Yes, and thank you, Aditya, for asking that question, because it's that's an additional feature of the program that I wanted to talk to you about. The LLM is housed within the what we call the School of Governance and Public Policy. So, in addition to the LLM, the School of Governance also has a MA in Public Policy program, and we have faculty that kind of trespasses in both areas. So, I'm one of them. So, I teach law on the LLM program, and I teach courses in political philosophy on the public policy program, and you can see how that interface with law and public policy will not, in fact, be integral to the LLM in development program. So if that's what you're looking at, you're coming to exactly the right program.
And as you said, when it comes to the options of the optional courses they have to take, they could choose from those areas.
So I think so. Some people can actually choose courses which are geared towards public policy. They give the courses on not just introduction to public policy, but also courses on social governance and courses on environmental law, on ecology. So these are courses that I think are important for law students.
Environmental law, you said, right?
Yeah, I mean there are teachers here who are interested in that subject, not environmental law in particular, but ecology.
Ecology. Oh, that probably answers. They were answer the question when I was going to ask you. They did a. I just saw a presentation on ecological justice.
Yes. So I think that there's a group of students, and I think that kind of brings us to the other question about clinical projects, because
thank you, Khurshid Alam, for asking that question. They're probably answering your question on the clinical projects involved in the LLM program.
So the faculty that developed the LLM in law and development, of which I was a part, was really concerned that clinical projects, or field projects as we call it, has often been an ignored portion of the law school curriculum. Right? It's been an add-on portion, and we wanted to avoid that. So we, much like our attitude towards presentations, we took much the same approach towards drafting, designing the clinical projects. We designed the clinical projects as a year-long affair. Starts right from the beginning of your LLM and ends at the time that your LLM ends. And the idea is that a group of students, probably anything between 4 to 10 students, are assigned to a faculty, a subject matter expert faculty, who will, in conjunction with the students, develop a project, a field project, which necessarily involves students doing some kind of field work in an area of their interest and the faculty's interest. Best way to explain this through an example: I was in charge of what is called the criminal justice project, and what we did was, I'm interested, for example, in issues of fault response, criminal responsibility, and punishment. And so we looked into the death penalty cases, 2 death penalty cases in Karnataka, and we were trying to analyze how the state went about sentencing these people, and what the issues of fault responsibility and blame were in those. And so what the students did was they actually went to the village where the incident occurred. They actually interviewed people who were involved in those criminal prosecutions, and they learned a lot about the application of the law and criminal justice and policy. And that's just one example of a field project. I'm giving you, there are several examples in constitution, law, or ecology, or legal system reform. In each of these programs, in each of these modules, a group of students go out, do some empirical research. And by empirical research, I mean I don't mean just statistics. I mean qualitative and quantitative research, meet people, and then develop some kind of social intervention, either in the form of a report, in the form of a committee finding, in the form of some kind of in the future we have planned that we might want to intervene in litigation. So it's some kind of social intervention that takes advantage of the law.
Fantastic. Probably, hopefully that answers your question, Khurshid Alam. But if you feel there are any follow-up questions, please do ask. I'll just pick next Sarthak's question. The most different specialization program, want to know, is this equally competent as other specializations?
I mean, I take your question as asking how does it compare to L&M programs elsewhere with other specializations? And as you already know, Sarthak, there are programs in other law universities which specialize in corporate law or human rights or taxation. So what we have done is we have at least informed although not in substance, in form, we have decided to specialize in law and development. And what that means for us in substance is that we focus on issues that are important to the aims of Azim Premji University, which is to look into what we mean by sustainable development which occurs with equality and justice. So our programs are designed towards that. So we have a module on law and development, we have a module on law and justice, and we have modules on field projects, and all these speak to the idea that we are trying to ensure that our specialization in law and development comes through that.
Thank you. Thanks, Nigam. I think this probably, I have another question that came in your answer, that because we call our program a research and field intensive postgraduate program in law. So what I understand, you introduced them into research methods also, which is part of the core course. And in part of the field work, do they even collect primary data for their field work?
Yeah, it depends on what the field work is. And yes, I think in some of the field work, they do collect primary data. They interview people, and they report back on what they've observed in the field. So that's part of their field projects. It's research intensive. The ideas of it being research intensive and it being field intensive are not meant to be captured in different silos. They're meant to be together. So good research leads to good field work, and vice versa. So good field work that feeds back into good research, and we want our students to combine the two capabilities that we have.
Very nice, thank you. I do have some more questions to ask, which has come offline, but we'll take the questions coming online now. As internship part of those clinical projects, that's the...
Our students, as part of their field projects, some of them might want to do internships, but it's not a mandatory portion of the clinical projects. It might well be the case that your field projects might dominate the time that you have away from the LL.M. So say you get a few weeks off from the LL.M, it might well be the case that you might spend those few weeks doing field work. So the internship is not a mandatory or a compulsory portion of the field work. It's separate.
I'll take the next question. I think this is quoting your interview wherein you said good writing is missing in our law school. So is it writing? It's part of the curriculum itself.
Well, I mean it's been one of my bugbears. It's almost a tragedy for law schools in India. We don't really train our students to write well. I think that there's plenty of writing going on, but good writing is missing. And by that, what I mean is that we lawyers especially, I think, are sometimes over-reliant on jargon and obscure the real meaning of what they want to write. And those kind of things, the skills that are important in persuasive, clear writing are skills that are not easy to develop. They require a certain amount of time and a certain amount of guidance. And both those components, time and guidance, are in short supply, especially in the postgraduate programs in our country. One of the reasons some of us on the law faculty were very keen on starting a postgraduate law program is to precisely address those two elements of good writing, time and guidance. I think a law student requires a year of sustained writing and requires a year of being guided by experienced professionals in his or her area for that student to develop into a good writer. I think that's absolutely crucial to the arsenal of any good lawyer. I remember one of the candidates asked this question. He said, "How will this help me practice law?" Well, good writing is probably the most important thing in practicing law, even more important according to me than oral scholarship. It's written scholarship. That's very, very important, and that's one of the thrust areas of the law development program at AB.
Thank you. Yeah, my technical team tells me that I need to be speaking a bit more louder. So this is probably the indicator where my volume should go up. Um, just a continuation question when you said about writing. So I understand the dissertation involves quite a lot amount of writing, but is there anything as part of the assessment of the course itself where students need to do a lot of writing?
Well, I mean, they're assessed or they're at least monitored at various points of time during the dissertation process. And of course, the dissertation itself is assessed both in terms of its final product as well as in terms of how they defend it before a committee of faculty members who are asking them questions about the dissertation. So there is the crucial assessment portion of it. But I think also at various points of time they are required to give us drafts on which we comment, and then they modify the drafts according to the comments of the faculty supervisors. So there's a certain monitoring process that goes on throughout the year. And I think that monitoring process ensures that students, even if they go a bit astray in the writing process, are brought back to the mainstream and are able to work on their projects and improve it throughout the year.
I'll take the next question on the students' classroom experience. That's probably it's a question to one of our students. But still, any comments that you have heard from?
Well, all I can say is that it's a very rigorous program. So we didn't. There are going to be no freebies in the LL.M program. Let's put it that way. It's a program where students ought to be on their toes. We demand. We respect our students by demanding a lot more than what has been demanded of them before. So that's how we show concern for our students. So our idea is the students are capable of a lot more than what they think they're capable of. We require them to do a lot more reading than they're probably used to in other programs, and that's actually a good experience for them. They come out of this program, I think, knowing that they're capable of much more than what they thought they were when they entered the program. So the student experiences, it's not all gloom. It's going to be fun. It's very interactive. I think virtually all the members of the law faculty believe in interactive sessions. We talk to the students. We ask them what their thoughts, their comments are on the readings. We give them readings so that we can interact with them in the class. So the student experiences the classroom interactions are quite enjoyable. They might be challenging, but they're always enjoyable.
And what I've seen is it's a good mix of both graduates who are fresh out of their college, plus another group which have practiced law. So
true, and that. So as you rightly put it, there are students in the class who have worked before. There are students who have come fresh out of law school, and it's great to actually see them not only interact with me but interact with each other. And they have different perspectives on what I teach, I see that almost every day in my philosophy classes. So the more experienced practitioners they keep challenging me. They're saying that might be right in philosophy, but is it right in practice? And then the people who are fresh out of law school are more excited because they see new possibilities in that philosophy, and you can see that interaction between them, and it's very fun to kind of lead them and talk to them about it.
I've heard that a lot from the MA development students as well. You teach political philosophy, where we'll talk about.
Yes. Well, Sony, we have the legal writing is addressed actually in two ways, and both of these ways are equally rigorous. We have and we've been talking about this a little bit before. We have a year-long dissertation program which requires you to write approximately 10,000 word thesis at the end of your program, which means that at the end of the program, student is in a position to write a law review level paper, right? And that's a big piece of writing that you need to complete as part of your LL.M program. In each of the LL.M courses that we have, inevitably you will end up doing a good deal of writing. So in some courses you will write in the classroom, questions that are given to you in the class, which is more traditional format, you will be used to that. But also in many of the courses, for example, in some of my courses, we have take-home essays. You're given 48 hours, 24 hours to write a 1,000-word essay on a topic that's given to you, at 9 in the morning, and then you need to submit back at 9 in the morning, next day, and so you'll have those, and those writings are done. And there are short intervals for each course. And they also develop in the same way that dissertation is developing. These kind of shorter written assignments will also develop the same kind of writing skills that we want you to have. So you have those.
Thank you. Thanks, Nikam. Sony, hope that answers your question. I'll take Sarthak's question on his interest being in the criminal justice.
A course in the future, but not right now. So right now we don't have courses, we don't have taught courses on these things. Having said that, if a student is interested in these areas, they can always write a dissertation in this area. So and you're going to be working on that throughout the year. In fact, we have students in the previous LL.M batch who have done work in all these areas.
Oh.
So there are people who have done work in property rights. There's a student who wrote something on copyright, very interesting thesis on copyright, and in fact the student's subject was the liability of internet service providers, internet service providers for illegal content. Something that I believe all the young users of the internet are aware of. So the idea that if you have a movie that's been put on through an internet service provider, what happens to the copyright issues in that movie? So it's an interesting thesis. So even though we don't have an intellectual property program at the law school, at the law faculty, you are most welcome to look into those issues. Similarly, if you want to work on something in criminal justice, I'm sure there will be members of the law faculty who will be willing to supervise you. There are no taught courses in these subjects, so you should be aware of that.
But the clinics are giving them the opportunity to explore their
clinics as well. Thank you, Rajgopal, for that. Actually, I forgot to say that that, for example, there's a criminal justice clinic that we had last year, which talked about issues of death penalty. So anybody who's interested in those kind of issues would work on it.
And those clinics are also places where you see not only LL.M, also students from the law governance policy specialization also coming together.
Yes, again, that's one of those spaces where an LL.M student can take advantage of the fact that the LL.M program is housed within a larger university. That's often missing in law schools elsewhere. So you have people who've been doing their MA in development, and therefore they come from very different educational and practice background, who I'm sure would participate by participating in a field project where those students are there. I think it really is helpful in terms of enriching educational experience for our LL.M students to interact and actually participate as a team with those students.
That's a good one. It's not a law school where they're going. There's a school where you're dealing with ideas of development, which itself is quite interdisciplinary. I think Khurshid loves next question. Yeah, that's one of the questions that. What are the career paths available after this LL.M program?
I mean, we don't have the placement instructions yet because we are coming to the end of our LL.M program. From what I can hear, though, from our students is they're going to a variety of places. Some of them are going towards litigation. Many of them are interested in human rights litigation, but I think the students we are talking about in LL.M have gone into litigation per se, not just human rights litigation. Some of them are going into public policy spaces. Some of them are going into teaching. Some of them are thinking of going into development areas of organizations that are involved in development. So there are a variety of places that our students are either thinking of going or have already gone. And more generally, the idea is to have our students go into areas that is of special interest to the Azim Premji University itself, which is areas related to public policy, human rights, litigation, and law and development. Having said that, we encourage our students to become good lawyers first, and good lawyers can be placed anywhere. So the fact that you come to an LL.M program where you're given assistance in good writing and in good scholarship should hold you in good stead anyway.
Thank you. Thanks, Nigam. So, in case we didn't realize, we have finished almost 40 minutes of interacting with the wonderful questions. So, Sarthak, thanks for that comment. But if you still have questions, I think there are a lot of people watching. If you have questions, please do type in. There's a window called Say Something. We'll be happy to answer your questions. Otherwise, I have a couple of questions to ask, and in the next 5 to 10 minutes, we will wrap up this live interaction. Anything? I know you just came out of the dissertation. They were defending the dissertation, the earlier batch of students. Any feedback on the work that they have done? You would like to share it?
Yeah, I think the Vivas, at least for one,
Yeah.
I can share with you, were quite rigorous. So we asked them some quite sharp questions on the research and the writing, much as what they expected from us. It was a panel, so it was 3 of us asking them questions about their research and writing. And again, our focus was to use the Viva session as not just an assessment session, but as an educational session. So we wanted to show them, or to explain to them how we need their research questions to be sharp and precise, and how we expect the rest of the thesis to follow the theme that they have identified in the introduction. So sometimes, your students, they start off on one topic and veer into another topic. And we wanted to ensure that that doesn't happen. So part of the reason we were being quite rigorous in our Viva sessions was to emphasize that.
Right. I did happen to see some of their, there was a public exhibition that they did
Yes.
Earlier this month, and they invited the public to come and interact with them and talk about it. It was quite good. So if any more questions, please do. I do see Amulya who has joined us now. If you have any questions or comments, Amulya, we'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, thanks for those who have joined. I will just hang around and see if any new questions comes up with from anybody. So just to summarize what we were talking, we spoke about the coursework in the program in terms of or the taught courses in the form of core courses and electives. They have field work in the form of clinics, and it's a year-long dissertation. And clinics also and fieldwork also involves some of them traveling to places, if I understand.
Yes.
Right. And we spoke about the career paths available for them. We spoke about the writing part of it. If there are no more questions, we will wrap up. I think we'll just take last question from Sheetal. I think we answered that, but we'll probably. Again, is it continuous assessment which is added up to a course, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things about the university that I think is quite interesting. We believe in assessing at various stages of the course. You can call it continuous. I would rather call it some kind of a graded assessment. By that I mean that we go from asking the students questions in the class and then trying to figure out how to assess them on their class interaction and their attendance, and then we go up to a response paper. We ask the students to respond to some of the readings that we have in the class, and then we have usually we have a midterm, and then we have an end term. So we have several levels or several grades of assessment. The idea being that we expect that the student will be engaged with the class at various stages, and it's not as if it's one and all end at the end of the course. It's an assessment that happens that ensures that the student is invested in the class right from the beginning and then throughout the course.
Fantastic. Right, I'll take Amulya's question as well about the exposure student gets in terms of. That's a good. Thank you, Amulya, for asking that question. We would have completely forgotten about that. Nigam, if you want to add that.
Yeah, thank you, Amelia. Yeah, I think that we encourage our students to present their papers, participate in conferences. We believe that students will benefit from interactions with their peers as well as with faculty members from other universities. Our LL.M students have in the past been to Delhi and attended legal conferences there. One of our students has actually presented or was planning to present a paper at a conference during the LL.M. So this is something that, for example, I didn't do when I was a law student. And that's, I think, coming to the last part of your question, which is about the culture of the university. The idea of the university is to make the student do a diverse set of activities related to their study. So, for example, in our class, in the LL.M. class, we make our students sit in a classroom, listen to us, but then we also make them write something which is their own project. We make them go out into the field and do some research there. We make them, or we encourage them to go to conferences and interact with other people. So we believe that a variety of influences will enrich and help them in their legal education.
Thank you. Thanks, Nigam. Amulya, I hope that answers your question. That's probably the last. We have time, Sarthak, so don't make it the last question. Planning to appear for the civil service examination, will this program help in doing that?
Well, I mean, if law is an option, yes, I think coming to an LL.M. program will improve your understanding and knowledge of the law. But the only note of caution here is that the LL.M. program is one of the most rigorous programs, probably the most rigorous law program in India. So the way it is structured, you will hardly have any time for anything else during the program. By the time you're done with dissertations, field projects, course examinations, it'll be quite hard for you to find time outside of these activities. So that's a note of caution that I have for you. I'm not discouraging you from writing the civil services exam, but I'm saying if you want to prepare for it, the LL.M. law development is quite a time-consuming course, and you must be aware of that.
That exam requires a different kind of preparation and time to spend and books to be read, and that's a question that we get asked even for our other master's program.
Yes.
Yes, you can, but the course itself is quite rigorous. Will they find time to be preparing for those examinations? We don't know. Yeah. I think we had quite a good session. If there are no more questions, Nigam, thank you very much. I know you had a very hectic day from the morning listening to the dissertation, the viva. Thank you all for watching. If you have some more questions, please do drop in an email. We should definitely be able to answer your questions. We'll be back again probably next week with themes around development, education, law policy and governance. Till then, goodbye and good luck. Thank you.